What is the Canis Pugnax of Roman history, which is forgotten nowadays? Come along with us as we shed light on their training, tactics, and the profound influence they had on the ancient battlefield. This is the story of the Roman war dogs known as Canis Pugnax. The very name Canis Pugnax, which can be translated to mean either fighting dog or war dog, is illustrative of their function. These were not the typical dogs that one could see in a Roman household. Rather, they belonged to a separate breed that was created specifically for use in combat. Canis Pugnax's ancestry may be traced all the way back to the Molossian dogs that lived in ancient Greece, where it all began. These Molossian hounds were famous for their incredible power, imposing looks, and ferocious instincts to protect their masters and their pack. The Molossian dogs were natural protectors and established a reputation for their loyalty and unflinching commitment to their duty after being raised for the purpose of protecting livestock in the past. They were first developed as a breed specifically for this purpose. Because of this, they served as an excellent foundation for the development of the Roman battle dog. Roman breeders saw the promise in Molossian dogs and began carefully breeding them to improve certain characteristics that would be useful in the battlefield. As a result, Molossian dogs came to be known as Roman dogs. These characteristics included a great degree of loyalty, courage, and an innate readiness to follow directions, in addition to a person's obvious prowess in the physical realm. Canis Pugnax was developed through careful breeding of Molossian dogs that exhibited these characteristics, which led to the creation of the breed. Roman breeders improved the breed over the course of several generations, putting even more of an emphasis on the characteristics that made them useful in military settings. These canines were notorious for their sturdy build, formidable teeth, and imposing stature, all of which made them a formidable opponent in any conflict. They were frequently of Mastiff-type breeds, which are distinguished by having musculature all over their body, particularly in the jaws, and having a determined demeanor. Because of these characteristics, they were extremely effective as soldiers, particularly when it came to eliminating dangers on the battlefield. It was the Roman breeding and training procedures that honed these dogs into the powerful war dogs that history would come to recognize as Canis Pugnax. The Molossian canines were responsible for the basic attributes that were supplied to Canis Pugnax by Canis Pugnax. The Roman military's dedication to innovation is demonstrated by their deliberate selection and breeding of Canis Pugnax. They recognized the exceptional qualities that these war dogs brought to the field of battle, and they bred for those characteristics. These dogs were not only animals, rather, they were a well-honed weapon in the arsenal of the Roman legions, acting as a symbol of Roman might and discipline in the process. Canis Pugnax's success on the battlefield was directly correlated to the quantity of training and discipline they received. These canines went through strenuous and regimented training programs, which instilled in them a feeling of obedience, devotion, and preparedness for battle. The Roman soldiers utilized dog handlers known as aquiliferi canum, who were tasked with the responsibility of caring for and providing training for these fearsome companions. The canines were familiarized with the cacophonous atmosphere of the battlefield by subjecting them to a variety of sensory stimulations, such as intense noises and the sounds of combat. Obedience to commands was one of the most notable characteristics of Canis Pugnax, particularly when they were engaged in combat. They were taught to react quickly to the signals given to them by their trainers, which enabled their handlers to make efficient use of them in the field. These war dogs were trained to obey directions, whether they were to attack an adversary, guard an area, or flee to a secure location. On the battlefield, their discipline made it possible to deploy them strategically and guaranteed that they were an asset rather than a liability for their side. The Canis Pugnax was an essential component of Roman military strategy and was deployed in a wide variety of roles during battles. Let's take a look at some of the more frequent strategies that were used to put these war dogs into action. Canis Pugnax, often known as assault dogs, were regularly deployed in frontal attacks against enemy formations. They stormed alongside Roman soldiers while armed with spiky collars and armor that had been expressly constructed for them. Their viciousness and strength played a significant role in both scaring the enemy and causing disorder among their ranks. Canis Pugnax were used as guard dogs for Roman military outposts and encampments that were located behind the front lines of combat. Because of their acute senses, they made great sentinels because they could quickly identify approaching foes and sound the alert. Canis Pugnax were utilized for search and rescue operations on the battlefield in order to locate missing or injured service members. Their acute sense of smell allowed them to locate wounded teammates, thereby directing first responders to those who needed medical attention and potentially saving lives. The presence of war dogs had a psychological effect on the adversary, which contributed to the overall strategy of psychological warfare. Both the sight and the sound of these vicious animals storming into battle has the potential to strike dread into the hearts of their opponents. The Romans understood the advantages of employing this psychological advantage in battle, and they did so frequently. The Canis Pugnax had a significant influence on the Roman battlefield, and their contribution went much beyond the capabilities of their bodies alone. Advantage on the battlefield. These war dogs provided Roman armies with a significant advantage on the battlefield. Not only did they destabilize hostile formations, but they also provided assistance to Roman soldiers by sowing disorder and confusion amid the ranks of the adversary. Battle of the mind. It is impossible to place enough emphasis on the importance of the aspect of battle of the mind. When combined with other Roman strategies, the mere appearance of these vicious dogs was enough to strike terror into the hearts of their foes. This was especially effective when the Romans deployed their dogs in conjunction with other military strategies. Canis Pugnax were stationed at Roman camps to act as both guards and early warning systems, providing protection and security. The presence of these trustworthy allies offered the soldiers a feeling of safety, as they were confident that any possible dangers would be reported to them by their comrades. The capacity to discover wounded soldiers and provide aid to them was an essential part of the search and rescue role. Because of this, a number of lives were spared, and the soldiers' morale was boosted as a result of the knowledge that their fellow soldiers would not be abandoned. The significance of Canis Pugnax in Roman military history is attested to by the legacy that they have left behind. An everlasting imprint was left on the Roman Empire as a result of their performance in a variety of capacities on the battlefield. The application of Canis Pugnax underwent continuous development throughout the expansion of the Roman Empire. They came to be indispensable not only in the conduct of military operations, but also in the upkeep and preservation of order in the provinces. Their fame extended across the Roman world, and the very fact that they were there became a symbol of Roman power and order. The influence of Canis Pugnax was felt far beyond the borders of the Roman Empire. Their traits and attributes were influential in the evolution of subsequent war dogs in a variety of cultures and time periods, and this development may be traced back to ancient times. Even in this day and age, we can still detect traces of Canis Pugnax in the many different working and service dog breeds that are used by modern law enforcement and the military. Canis Pugnax, often known as Roman war dogs, had a fascinating history that sheds light on the complex nature of ancient warfare and is a gripping tale in its own right. On the battlefield of ancient Rome, these obedient and exceptionally well-trained canines played an important part, influencing Roman military strategy, offering benefits in psychological warfare, and watching out for the health and safety of Roman soldiers. Because of their dedication to the Roman legions as well as their ferocity in combat, they were an extremely significant resource for the Roman army. Their legacy continues to live on, not just in the history of ancient Rome, but also in the persistent influence they have had on the employment of working dogs in a variety of military and security jobs throughout the course of history. We hope that this insight into the interesting world of the Roman war dogs, known as Canis Pugnax, has been enjoyable for you. If you found this video interesting, please take a moment to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to hear more fascinating stories drawn from the pages of history. We appreciate you coming, and until we meet again, we encourage you to keep looking into the past, since there is always more to learn.